Tonight I want to talk about the essence of Tibetan Buddhism. And I guess different people would say different things when you would ask them what's the essence of Tibetan Buddhism. And I want to refer to a book by His Holiness the Dalai Lama, which is called The Heart of Meditation. And in the undertitle, the Dalai Lama is pointing to what for him, at least in this book, is the essence of all Tibetan Buddhist lineages. So the undertitle is The Recognition of Innermost Awareness. The Recognition of Innermost Awareness. Innermost Awareness is the translation of Jeffrey Hopkins, an important translator from Tibetan into English, of a Tibetan term which is Rigpa. So I would like to talk a bit about innermost awareness tonight, which is a bit difficult because innermost awareness is a placeholder for something which is beyond the conceptual mind. So it is a challenge to use the conceptual mind to go beyond the conceptual mind. But before I will try to say something about this, let's take some time to shift from the busyness of the day. So I will lead a simple meditation which has three parts. The first one is shifting, connecting with the breath, connecting with the body, and bringing into this meeting with yourself as much as kindness as possible, as much as warm-heartedness as possible. And then the second part is a practice from the Tibetan Buddhist tradition which is called the mentor bonding process. So in this practice, we imagine the presence of a benefactor, of a mentor, to bring warm-heartedness into the practice, into the meditation. Warm-heartedness, inspiration, protection, vitality. So it is a kind of shortcut to qualities which are all within ourselves, but sometimes it's difficult to connect with them, or we don't trust them. So it makes sense that at times in our practice we project these qualities into another person and then empower another person to open this within ourselves. So it is not worshipping another person, it is using a mental projection to connect with a quality which you might at the moment or you might tonight be out of touch with. And I invite you to be creative and flexible with this. So as a Tibetan Buddhist practitioner, I would work with my main teacher, Lama Zopa Rinpoche, or the Dalai Lama, or the Buddha. But since I'm also a Catholic, I'm also putting Jesus and John of the Cross into the field. And so you can just allow someone, well, it can be also a few, so you don't need to decide, or is it now the Jesus or Buddha? They can also sit together. You can be sure they are best friends. But if that is too, I don't know, religious for you, you could also connect with a yoga teacher or a therapist or a coach which embodies qualities for you which you're inspired by. It could be also a grandfather or a grandmother. You can also, there's no limits to this. You can can just invite. It can be a person you have met. That's quite good, because then your body remembers how it was to be in the presence of this person. But so there can be also more a symbolic representation, like the Buddha. This kind of practices is obviously not useful for everyone, so then you just leave it. Yeah. Don't try to push something into your meditation which is not your pair of shoes. Yeah. So that's the second part, the mentor bonding process. And within Tibetan Buddhism, it's a practice which many people do as part of their daily practice. And then the third part of this first meditation is that I will invite you to align with an altruistic intention. So of course it is good to start with the intention why you are actually here. So that's a good place to start with that. And there will be all kinds of intention here. Some will be here because they want to have some more peace in their life. Some are here to maybe explore Tibetan Buddhism. There's all kinds of reasons why people come to a place like this. And that's fine. And that's where we start. But then my invitation will be to broaden that, to invite you into broadening the intention into a more altruistic intention. So that this evening becomes something which is not only benefiting us, but also the people we live with and everyone we touch in any way in our life. And this yearning to serve, this yearning to heal, this yearning to make the place where you live a better place, it is part of our psyche, it's part of our makeup as social beings. So it might be quite covered, but I think we can safely assume that we are born with it and it is within us. And it is this intention to serve which makes your meditation practice really a spiritual practice and not just a practice of lowering your blood pressure or being more focused in work, which is a good thing, but it's very modest to have an intention in your spiritual practice like that. So it is an invitation, and you can just see what happens. So let's adjust our posture and if you like, you can close your eyes. If you keep your eyes open, then you let the gaze very relaxed, very open, without particularly looking at something. And then you just notice first how it feels if you start to bring a bit more attention to yourself, to your inner life. What do you bring with you into this moment? then I invite you to slide with your awareness on the breath into your body, even down into your feet. And you notice how the chair or the floor carries you. And it is like an embrace, like meeting a friend. There's a sense of dropping from the head into the body. And with each in-breath, you can repeat that sliding a bit, that dropping. How is your belly? Your hands? Just noticing what is there. Allowing whatever you find. And then in the out-breath there's a quality of letting go. And maybe this can support you in softening a bit. Softening in the belly, in the shoulders, in the face. Nothing is excluded. As best as you can, make a gesture of radical acceptance. And of course thoughts continue to arise, and that's fine. But maybe you can take them less serious. Just let them come and go, like clouds. And if you find yourself entangled in your thinking, with the in-breath you slide back into your hands, emphasizing the energy and the aliveness in your body. Maybe you notice some tension, some discomfort somewhere, and what we explore here is if you let that be okay. Yes, this is what I feel. Yes, this is what is happening. It's okay. Returning resting. Allowing this moment to be exactly what it already is. And then, if it makes sense for you, I invite you to feel and invite the presence of a mentor, or a few of them. And this is like the great eastern morning sun rising after a cold night. And you just bathe in the sun. Here the sun of compassion, the sun of kindness, the sun of wisdom. With your whole body, from the toes to the top of your head, every cell of your body. Just bathing in the sun like a puppy. It's not important that you have a clear visual image. More important is to feel the presence, compassionate presence, kindness, warm-heartedness. If there's a person you know, you hear her voice, really as if the Dalai Lama or Jesus just stepped into this room. As if angels are flocking from all directions. Your angels. You see the loving gaze and the smile. You feel it. If your mind wanders, you come back to the breath, to your hands, to your belly. Let down all your guards, all your masks. Make yourself vulnerable, soft. How does it feel to be seen in your nakedness, with your light and with your darkness, and feel safe? carry a pain, a hurt, a burden. Just see what happens if you bring that into the light of compassion and wisdom. Just resting, doing nothing. As if you're taking a warm bath. Then your mentor and the others, if there were others, they dissolve into this light, into the nectar of compassion. And it enters your body at a heart level. Your heart opens like a flower. And you become aware of the light inside, the Buddha inside, the Jesus inside, the Goddess inside, the core of your being, like a diamond, like a Buddha. The source from where your love comes, your care. And that light fills your body, and it starts to shine out through the pores of your body. Be the light. Forget yourself. Be the light. You are the light. The Buddha inside. Where in your life, inside or outside, do you need to love more, not less? Where in your life, inside or outside, do you need to love more, not less? And then towards the end of this meditation, I invite you to align yourself with a more altruistic intention, inspired by the great bodhisattvas, the Dalai Lama, the Karmapa, Jesus. And I want to recite a verse from the Bodhisattva Shantideva. As long as space remains, as long as there are beings, suffering beings, as long I will remain in order to serve. Countless beings are afraid. I vow to protect them all. This is from the book, The Heart of Meditation, by the Dalai Lama. And in the beginning of this book, he writes, I have great interest in the statement by many wise persons in all the orders of Tibetan Buddhism that their systems come down to the same final principle. And I feel that this is what I should and must explain. Such an exploration may be controversial, but in any case, these great scholar yogis say that all these systems come down to the same final basic insight, the same principle, because there is indeed a final basic experience on which they all alight. There's no way they would say this just to be polite. Once there must be such a place of coming together. What is it? And a bit later in this chapter, he shares some of the placeholder words which in the Tibetan tradition point to this basic principle which he is referring to. So sometimes it is called the fundamental innate mind of clear light, the space diamond pervading space, the jewel mind. It's also called ordinary consciousness. Keep that in mind, because otherwise we have exaggerated expectations. And then he mentions Innermost Awareness as this translation of Rigpa. So what His Holiness says here, and this whole book is about this, is that there is this basic, you could call it mystic insights, on which all Tibetan Buddhist traditions rest. So Buddhism is a mystic tradition. You can read thousands of books and you can learn 16 of that and 5 of that, and that's all good and fine and should be helpful. But this is what it is about. And in the Tibetan tradition they say the problem is it is too close and too simple. It is too close and too simple. That's why we don't get it. That's why we're seeking it everywhere. And that's why our conceptual mind, which is so complicated, tries to get there by reading all these books, as if piling knowledge helps in any way to go beyond the conceptual mind. If you do it skillfully, it does. But it's also easy to get stuck in trying to understand something which you will never understand. It's difficult for us, very difficult, because we believe that only what we understand exists. Only what you can put into a PowerPoint presentation is valid. So there is a kind of not knowing of a different kind of knowing. And not knowing of a different kind of knowing. The mystic experience. And Buddhism is like a container. The traditions of Tibetan Buddhism are containers where this mystic experience is transmitted from one generation to the next. And the rest is just package. It's just protection. It's just, and also, we need to do things. And so let's do less harmful things. But this transmission from heart to heart, from mind to mind, is something super simple. And it's not this transmission from heart to heart, from mind to mind, nothing is given to you. You're pointed to something which you always already had. Actually, maybe it's better to say it's pointing to something which you are already. So there's the image of the fish swimming in the ocean, looking for water, the water of life. Yeah. Swimming here, swimming there, swimming to Tibet, swimming to the library, swimming to Guruji, and meeting other fish who are also looking for water. And then there's the fish who sell water. And then after a long journey, and somehow this must be part of the game, because it seems that we have to do this long journey. So we're doing this long journey to a place where we are already. So finally we come to the really relaxed Dalai Lama fish. And he says, just relax, baby. It's good enough. Just relax. Relaxation is the most important thing. Just relax. So let go. And then it's like, oh shit. That's amazing. How could I not see this? It's so close, it's so simple. Wow. All the money I've spent. For something I already have. What is obvious is kind of understanding what I say, or something might resonate, or maybe not. But so understanding what is being said is not the experience itself. It's a bit dangerous to say something about innermost awareness. So in some Buddhist traditions, in some Buddhist lineages, they don't say anything about innermost awareness. They just take away what you think you are. They just take it away. That's what the Buddha did in the Heart Sutra. So here he is, the Buddha at Vulture's Peak. His monks, maybe they were also nuns, hopefully, but sitting around and they were kind of puffed up, as monks often are, because they felt that they knew something, that they have understood something. And they had memorized the force of this and the 16 of that, and they have traveled through the 9 stages of shamatha, and they can enter the formless realms and all that stuff. And so they are really masters. So they sit there. And the Buddha taught that part. So it's part of the game, the force of this and the 16 of that and stuff like that. Things you can know. And then in the Heart Sutra, the Buddha says, no, away. This is gone. Nothing. This is not it. This does not exist. But. And so everything, like he pulled the rug under any kind of holding on to something, any kind of, I have understood something, I got somewhere on the path. So, no attainment, no enlightenment, no this, no that. And then the worst thing, no self. So there was nobody ever on the path. So in one Prajnaparamita Sutra it says that the monks fainted. And then he left. And he didn't say anything more. And then out of compassion he came back. And then what happened is called the third wheel the third turning of the wheel. So the teachings on Vulture Speak, they are the second turning of the wheel. The lists are the first turning of the wheel. Yeah. So first the lists, memorizing stages, this and that and that. Second, no. All this is empty. All this is unfindable. All this is constructed. All this is a mind fuck. So then what? What is left if you realize it's all made up? The whole thing. It's all empty projections. So that's a scary place. It's dying. This is exactly what's going to happen when you die. The death process is a process of the dissolution of everything you think you are. There it's gone. My career, the nice memory of the Mount Everest, my relationships, your name, your gender, your body. So all this will dissolve. All this will be taken away from you. That's what he did at the Heart Sutra, with the Heart Sutra on Vulture Speak. So no wonder why they fainted. Particularly if you have invested 30 years in your spiritual path and then your master comes and says, you know, guys, you just wasted your time. That's not it. So now, the thing is, that gap which opens in that moment is not nothing, but it is also not something. It's neither nothing nor it is something. It is neither nothing nor it is something. So the problem is when anything is said about what is left, then we make it into something again. We have ideas. Now we have this word, innermost awareness, and we have some kind of, that must be, like kind of an image or something like that, or I understand, innermost awareness must be the essence, must be the soul or something like that. And then there is already something, and that's already too much. So that's why it's dangerous to talk about it from the Buddhist point of view. Of course, there's other traditions who talk a lot about this, and they call it God, and then you stay in a dualistic split between me and God. And that's the problem, the dualistic split. So as soon as we have a mental image or an idea, or I have understood this, it's innermost awareness, there's the dualistic split. I, and that what I understand. So with every word being said about this, you already mess it up. So you create a tension between the subject and the object. And then you think, innermost awareness, how do I get there? How can I understand it? I want this. So, but in other Buddhist tradition, and that's what is called the third turning of the wheel, the topic of the third turning of the wheel is Buddha nature, another word for innermost awareness, Buddha nature, the nature of your mind, the emptiness of your mind. So the Buddha talked about it, hoping by talking about it he would help people, kind of comfort them a bit. Because it's very scary to die, it's very scary when the central position which we are identified with, when that drops away. So, but then if you have kind of some trust, it's not the end, it's not annihilation, then you might be a bit more courageous to actually let go. So that's why I would like to share with you three main pointers. How particular the Dzogchen masters, the masters of the great perfection of Tibetan Buddhism, which their focus is the transmission of the mystic experience. How they, they have, some of them when they share this, they sing songs like Milarepa. So Milarepa, when he shared this with his students, he was singing spontaneous songs. So the mystic experience in the different traditions is often expressed through poems, through music, through architecture, through art. So different things. That's what Bach does when he... That's his transmission of innermost awareness. Coming from innermost awareness, art which comes from innermost awareness, poems which come from innermost awareness, they have the power to transmit because they point to something in you, something which you can then recognize. And of course, it does not make sense to say something you can recognize, because there's nothing to recognize and there's nobody there who could recognize something. And that's the recognition. Don't try to understand what I'm saying. Listen to it lightly, as if you are listening to poems. Yes.
Is it okay to ask?
Yeah.
Because sometimes when I try to get a grip, then I have this image of an empty bottle when the wind just blows, and it's very scary for me. Do you understand? There are nothing but everything else blowing in me, and then it's really being dead.
When you say everything else blowing in me, what is the... Yes.
In something.
Yes. In the Tibetan tradition, and Lama Zopa Rinpoche also says this often, this kind of fear is a good sign. It shows that you get somewhere. So the worst thing we can do in this kind of experiences is to back off. So as a practitioner of the great perfection, you need to commit to your fear. You need to be completely committed to your fear.
But I feel really scared.
Yes.
Yeah. It's not
yes,
just
so
the word, it's really,
no.
really feeling
Yes,
scary.
so it doesn't make sense to push. No. But you can go to the edge, and then you back up, and then you go a bit, and then So before the break, I want to say something which I usually say at the end, but I want to reverse it. I want to start at the end. And then, so, what is it what I usually say at the end? I wanted to say something else also. One way how this is transmitted in the Tibetan Buddhist tradition is through silence. So, last weekend I was in Munich to attend the teachings of Lama Zopa there. And he started with reciting a verse of the Diamond Cutter Sutra. Yeah? So all the Prajnaparamita Sutras are about this. So they don't make sense. They are crazy. Prajnaparamita Sutras. So, and he recited this verse of the Daimatkata Sutra, which, lists some examples of how things exist in this insubstantial, dreamlike way. So, like a flash of lightning, a dream, a bubble, and so on. And what he did was, he was reciting this in Tibetan. He said one word, very slowly, and then there was silence. And then come, longer than now. And then come like a dream, silence. Yeah. That's the gap between the words, the gap between thoughts. It is said in the Buddhist myth that the Buddha gave this transmission first to Kashyapya, a monk, who then went to China to found the Shan tradition, which then turned into Zen in Japan. So what he did was, in that moment, so he gave his usual stuff, 6 of this and 15 of this and so on. And then silence. And then he held up a flower. And Kashyapa smiled. That's it. As you maybe know, the Zen masters sometimes transmit this with a hit. Yeah? There's also stories in the Tibetan tradition. So that, like, Naropa got this transmission from his teacher, Tilopa, through a hit of with the sandal, like wham. So wham, the gap. Of course, you need to be ready. Yeah? Otherwise, it just hurts. It needs to come at the right moment. So this process is always a dance between a gradual awakening and a sudden awakening. So that's why I say being this fish swimming around is not a waste of time. So part of the sudden awakening is then that you completely understand the swimming around was absolutely necessary. You had to do all this stuff in order to really directly experience that you didn't need to do all this stuff. So gradual awakening and sudden awakening, they are not opposites. And of course it makes the 16th of this and the 4th of this, they are really precious and they are valuable. And in a way you could say they make you ready. So the other thing I want to say is, how to say it? The innermost awareness. Some people just say awareness. So, I mean, we can use this word and mean different things. Yeah. So some people say awareness, they mean something else than when I say awareness. Awareness is not separate from what you are aware of. The experience and the knowing of your experience are not separate, they are the same. The arising and passing of your experience and the knowingness of the arising and passing are not two different things. They are the same. So what that means is, from the Dzogchen point of view, from the innermost awareness point of view, what we are seeking is not separate or behind or somehow profounder than this. So that's why it's also called ordinary mind. So when people say, yeah, resting in awareness and you are awareness, then there might be a sense that awareness is something else than this. Exactly this, as it is, with the whole shit, with the whole catastrophe, including all the things you think you need to overcome so that you can rest in awareness. So, after the break, when I talk about awareness, and I might use, I'm not sure, but I might use the image of the clouds and the sky. So the clouds, stuff happening, the stream of sense data, and the workings of the conceptual mind who project meaning onto the sense data. So that's the clouds, Sem in Tibetan Buddhism. And then Rigpa, the cloud, the sky. So this image and talking about this in this way is a skillful means, but it is provisional. The clouds and the sky, they are the same. Knowing and experience, arising and passing of your experience and the knowingness of it is the same. The two truths are one. What is called the two truths. Relative, ultimate, is one. They are not separate. So, if you think differently, then, and you have kind of ideas of emotional perfection, psychological perfection, body perfection, then you are on a long journey. Because it's going to continue. One shit thing after another. One shit emotion after another. So, it does not make sense, maybe, what I say now. But just keep it in mind. So, what I'm saying now is, the arising and passing of your experience and the knowingness is the same. So, it's not known. No, the arising and passing is not known by something here. And that's the dualistic split. So there's arising and passing of experience, stream of sense data, and the conceptual mind doing something out of it. That's what is happening, the display of your karma. And then there is I. So that what we are seeking, the end of seeking, the end of the place of completion, the place of peace, is not around this. No, some people say the knowing space within which everything is happening, the knowing space within which is everything happening. Everything is happening. And probably I will say this after the break. But now I'm at the end, yeah? Now I'm at the end. No, there is no difference between the knowing space and that what is happening. You don't need to, no, there's nothing behind this. Like, I need to, dig, pure awareness, essence or something. So I need to kind of dig through all of this, like this now. What is happening, your feelings, your thoughts, there's something behind, because this is not it. The image they use in the Dzogchen tradition, so in the provisional teachings, you get a lot the clouds and the sky. Yeah? So there's already two, which is already too much. Yeah? So if you have two, it's already too much. But it's, I like it, and it's a good point. I mean, it's helpful. It's a helpful image, but we have to be aware that it is provisional. So the image they use in the Dzogchen tradition is the sun and the sun rays. So the sun here, innermost awareness, the sun rays the shit which is happening in your life. And the good things also. Both. So in this experience, this moment, exactly as it is, including the not understanding what I'm saying, including the sense of I, including my ego, or I don't know, all this crap, including everything. Everything is the radiance of the sun. Is the sun, comes from the sun, is not separate from the sun. That's why Jesus can say heaven is now. He didn't say heaven is when you healed your depression. He said heaven is now. This is it. This is heaven. It is not recognized as this. So now again, kind of understanding it, or I don't know, for some of you it's probably bullshit what I say, but that's also fine, because that's the radiance of Rigpa. We can't get away from it. So let's say you would think this is really bullshit what he says, and you would say this to me, then I would have a reaction, yeah. But it doesn't matter, because also that reaction is radiance of Buddha nature. It's fine. It's fine to be human. It's all sacred. It's all the divine. It's all the one. Hey, let's look for the one. Yeah? Let's understand the one. Let's try to be one with everything. It's all dualistic confusion. It is like that. And it is too close and too simple. That's also why it's called ordinary. It's so ordinary. It has nothing to do with some images or ideals you might have of spiritual perfection. It has nothing to do with it. But again, it's a difference of, being able to articulate this and experiencing it. But being able to articulate it and enjoying to hear this, it's a good start. It's like a stepping stone. Okay. So let's have a break. And some